let's get now to our season predictions. And we started this last year. We have our categories, and we're going to do the same categories that we did last year. So the first thing that we talk about is the five things that must happen for. Last year it was for the Mavs to make the playoffs, but now we're going to do 5 things that must happen for the Mavs to be a top 4 seed.
5 things, okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to list my 5, and then we'll just go from there. First, kind of obvious, Porzingis has to be healthy. And by healthy, I mean he has to play at least 55 games. In the 55,
that's reasonable.
Is that too high or too low?
No, I think that's reasonable. That gives, if he misses time in the beginning of the season, but also gives time throughout the season where he can rest.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it's a 72-game season, so 55. Yeah, obviously, if they were playing 82, it'd be different. No, I mean, if he misses more than that, I think they're a playoff team regardless. So I'm not saying he's got to be.
You're talking
this
about
and
top
this.
4 seed, home court advantage.
Yeah, they're a top 4 seed if he can do that. Second, I think Luka really just has to maintain his numbers from last year. I mean, obviously, I think he's going to be better, but if he just maintains, and then if Kristaps can stay healthy with the addition of Josh Richardson, which is going to be another point, I think they're a top 4 seed. I mean, think about the number of games that Kristaps missed and everything that went wrong, and they still were like the 7th seed, and I think at one point could have been like the 5th or 4th
for about 5
seed.
minutes last year, they were the 2nd seed in the West.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Literally for about 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. But, it happened. Okay, third, Josh Richardson must average at least 15 points a game. Now, last year with the Sixers, he averaged, I think, 13. Before that, he averaged 16, a little over 16. So 15 is kind of in the middle, and I think that's a good number. With the Sixers, he might have had a little bit too much to do that didn't really fit him, so he struggled. With the Heat, I think he had a larger role than he would here. Is that a good way to portray it? Yeah, he had a larger role. So I don't think he'll do the 16, 17 points, but if he can average at least 15, that plus Hardaway and Kristaps and Luka, I think they'd be a top 4 seed. Fourth, the Mavs must have a top 10 defense. All of these are obvious. Like, this is obvious. If they have a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense, that's almost automatic that you're a top 4 seed. And then fifth, again, obviously, they have to be better in the clutch. Last year in the clutch, they had like the worst offensive rating, one of the worst defensive ratings. They were worse than the worst teams in the clutch. So if they have to improve that, and I think they will. But again, they have to do that if they want to be a top 4 seed.
For me, that was my primary one. Was
the
clutch play. Yeah, because if you took away the clutch numbers, they would have been a top 4 seed if they didn't lose so many clutch games.
That is true.
And so even with their lackluster defense, they still would have finished with a much better record. They would have finished ahead of OKC and Houston, but they lost close games to them.
Yeah.
Multiple times. So I think that was, to me, is the number one thing.
So expanding on that, being better in the clutch, what does that mean? Like, what does it take?
Just don't be the worst team in the league.
But I mean, what do they have to do to close out those games to be better?
You got to score the ball, and as stupid as this sounds, you got to score the ball and stop. Yes, and they did not do that.
Do the points.
Well, they got jittery. I think the pressure, the weight, especially as the season went on, and it became more public about how they're struggling in the clutch. I think they were afraid of clutch games because, it's like a player that isn't good at free throws and he doesn't want to get fouled at the end of the game.
Or like Paul George continuing to make excuses, so it just gets worse and worse.
Not sure where that came from, but I guess you can throw that in there as well.
Yeah.
So I think just playing your normal offense, take that pressure off of yourself. One of the ways you can do that on the offensive side is by playing better defense. You can get a little bit more rhythm shots. The defense isn't set, so you can probably run your offense a little bit quicker. So playing better defense in the clutch will help your offense. But really, to me, if they fix their clutch problems, they're going to be a top 4 seed.
Yeah, I would say being a better defensive team, naturally that's going to also happen in the clutch. So that's one thing. To their execution, I think that's like what you were talking about being jittery. Their offensive execution can be better.
Well, it was idle.
Yeah.
Like last year, they would just hear Luka.
They would stop playing the way they had played for. And it's like, you played for 2 hours this way. To me, it'd be harder to stop playing that way. Like, it's been so long now.
Well, when pressure starts to mount.
Yeah.
You know.
Kind of freeze.
Yeah.
And then also free throws. Making their free
throws.
throws.
Well, that's part of clutch play.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's all part of a young team, nervous. Like, you know, when you had Dirk for so many years, close games were great because they would foul Dirk at the end of the game, and there was no question.
Yeah.
Like, you never were afraid. Like, last year, you were like, anytime the Mavs went to the free throw line,
oh, God.
yes,
oh,
just
God,
make
oh, God.
one.
Whoever
just make
it was.
one. And they would end up missing both or whatever. And
Or
it's
they
like, if you
wouldn't-
just make them both, the game's over, and they would miss one.
Yeah.
But with Dirk, we had so many years of, this is it.
Game over.
The game is over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you're right. Making free throws is a big one.
And then one more note on the execution. It was little things. It was like the other team was shooting free throws. They missed a second one. They didn't get the rebound. That happened multiple times. It was just little things like that of like, you can't afford those little mistakes. You've got to be laser focused on everything you do. And they kind of lacked that a little bit.
The second main thing, or number 2
for you,
is also their defense. And I think if you look at the bubble, both Luka and Porzingis averaged over 30 points a game, yet they went like 2-6 in the bubble.
Oh yeah.
They did not play well. They couldn't stop anybody. It was just when they played Houston, they dropped 85 points in the first half.
Oh.
And we're just crushing the Rockets, but they could not stop the Rockets from scoring.
Yeah.
And so even with Porzingis and Luka dominating the offensive side of the court, they didn't stop a soul. That concerns me a little bit. So I think Josh Richardson is really going to help with that. You know, hopefully Dorian will be better as well defensively, but they got to be better defensively. They don't have to be top 10 in my opinion. I just think they have to be better.
Well,
they don't want to. You want to be on the better side of. You want to be above average.
Yeah, last year they hovered around 15th to 17th.
Now we're talking about top 4, not talking about championship. If they're going to win a championship, they're going to have to be a top 10 defense at some point.
Okay,
but if they're going to be top 4 seed, I don't think they have to be top 10 defensively.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
So
yeah,
for me, Josh Richardson has to create 20 points a game, whether he scores it or he is facilitating the offense a little bit. I think he's got to create that. Take some of that workload off of Luka from having to create every basket for the team, because that's really what he did. Every time the Mavericks scored, essentially was Luka initiating something.
Yeah.
You know, obviously that's not 100% accurate, but you get what I'm saying.
So that would be, let's say he averaged 15 points. Is that 5 assists?
Around 5 assists. Depends on
it
the
doesn't
kind
have
of
to be
assist.
directly. It could be like a hockey assist or something. But
that to me, it's just he's got to create 20 to 25 points.
His career average for assists is 3, so it's possible.
I also would like to see a rhythm, a chemistry between him, Josh Richardson, and Porzingis.
Oh, okay.
I think that will allow Luka, when he goes off the court to go to the bench, Josh Richardson and Porzingis can kind of run the show. I'd like to see a little bit of rhythm, because really Porzingis and Luka don't have great offensive chemistry.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's weird. Like, Maxey will set a screen for Luka, will get the same amount of space as Porzingis, except he'll get the ball, whereas Porzingis won't. And I think a lot of it is because the way the Mavs offense is, like, Porzingis is there as a decoy.
Well, and also the layup is a more efficient shot.
If he gets it, what I think is sometimes Luka forces it himself, thinking that the pressure, the gravity is going to sway towards Porzingis, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it stays with him. Porzingis has an open shot, and he doesn't get it to him. Yeah. So I would like to see, obviously, better chemistry between those two, but I would like to see a nice chemistry between Richardson and Porzingis, so that way when Luka's on the bench, the offense can continue to flow.
That's a good point.
The final point is having very minimal COVID.
Oh, yes. I can't believe I left that out.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That should be like number 1.
Well, I mean,
Well, it's like Lucas
it's
said.
an impact.
Yeah, whoever has the least amount of negative tests, they win all the games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it, because then you have players out, or
Yeah.
they might delay games. But I mean, basically, if you have the least amount of tests, you're probably going to win more games over the course of the season.
What's great about Luka making that comment is, how do you avoid getting COVID? By not going out.
Go out.
And if he recognizes don't get tests, then he's not going to be out partying.
Yeah. Well,
all
he
the
doesn't
time.
really seem like that kind of guy.
I don't
anyway.
know. I remember we listened to I think it was Mavs Moneyball, where they did the podcast of the draft night when they drafted Luka, and there was this idea, not so much from them, but just this overall idea that Luka was a partier.
Oh. Yeah, I haven't heard that, though.
Me neither,
I
but
mean,
that was just kind of the idea that was coming out from.
Yeah.
And it's like, the dude was 18 years old in Spain, who wouldn't party?
Yeah. I mean, everything I see on like his Instagram stories and his girlfriend's Instagram stories are him playing Fortnite and video games and stuff.
With his dog also.
Yeah, and watching basketball or soccer.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think that will play an impact on their Mavs seeding. If they don't have a lot of positive tests, they can get that continuity. They'll be fine.
Okay, so those are our top 5 things that must happen for the Mavs to be a top 4 seed. Let us know what you think. First of all, can they be a top 4 seed? And what do you think would have to happen for that to happen?